Hey, what's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about Dark Souls. I mean, who doesn't like to talk about Dark Souls? Top 5 games of all time for me. I'll just say it. Top 5 games of all time. Incredible design. I love the how they captured this complicated structure of a world in such a confined and small space. You know, there was so much verticality, there was locked doors, traps, hidden passageways. You just had to figure things out yourself and connect the world, just connect the pieces together until you formed the puzzle. And the same thing with the story too. And you know, many people didn't do that, but for those who spent some time in the game like myself, it was this cryptic, amazing game. And I absolutely loved it. Probably poured about 250 hours into the game total. And you can actually get the remastered version coming very soon on Steam. Now, this is spurred quite some controversy, I would say, because basically what happened was initially when they released the game onto Steam and for the PC crowd, it was broken. No ifs, ands, buts about it. This game was completely butchered. The ports from the consoles it looked terrible. It played even worse. If you were a mouse and keyboarder, you weren't playing Dark Souls. Trust me. Even the combat, the physics, how the lighting was handled from the transition between the console and the ports for the PC, just night and day, right? We got the Shaft on the PC, and you know, there's some resentment for them doing that to us, the PC crowd. We've always kind of had this bad taste in our mouth for Dark Souls. It was fixed later on by some genius who went into the code and released this thing called DX Fix or DX Config. I'm not sure exactly what it was called, but he basically went into the data files, cleaned up the game, made it work properly, made it look better, and he released this free add-on. It was just basically an executable you would download on your computer, just run one time, and then the game would be absolutely perfect. It showed what Dark Souls should have been initially to the PC crowd. The resentment came in the fact that Namco Bandai and From Software could have done the same thing as this guy in 30 minutes, but they chose not to. Through the entire lifespan of Dark Souls on the PC, I don't think we ever got an update. Literally no patches for Dark Souls. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what happened. So this guy comes around, 30 minutes later, makes this amazing executable, fixes the game entirely. So now, they're making a remaster version of Dark Souls, basically mirroring what this guy did years ago to fix the game. They're making the native 60 frames per second happen. They're doing fixes to the physics, the lighting, and they're also doing some changes to the online connectivity. So making, I think, more players able to come in and out of your game space for any given play session, which is really cool. But besides that, all of the stuff they're doing had already been done by this guy who released this executable. So the gaming industry right now is, or I guess I could say the gaming public, is kind of in consternation, right? How do we support the work of a developer who's going out of their way to fix something that's already been fixed and then calling it a remaster? Basically, they're going to be charging $40 for this remastered version of the game we already have. If you do have it, you get a 50% discount, so that will knock down that price to $20. Now, the big debate here is, should companies charge for remasters of games if you already own them? My opinion is that a developer, a publisher, they should always be paid for their work. Okay, if you're going to develop something, if you're going to work post-launch after the release of the game and you put lots of resources, employees, time, money into this fixing of the base game, you obviously should be compensated for that. However, the problem is, they're basically doing stuff to the game that should have already been fixed. Basically, the remaster of Dark Souls should have been the release day copy of Dark Souls, right? We should have already gotten this stuff with the original game. So the question is, should we be paying extra money to a company who did not do their due diligence to basically execute a good port in the first place? If you're on the fence of, no, I should not be paying for this because I should have gotten this in the first place, and I see where you're going with this, and I completely understand that would be your frame of mind. However, they are doing a pretty good job, what it looks like, although the bonfire, why is the bonfire changing? I'm not sure why that is. The bonfire is iconic. Why is it now just a flame? I'm not sure, but anyway, back to my point. You know, the precedent has not been quite set in the past. Yeah, BioShock did free remaster to people who had the copy of the original game. I know that Half-Life 2 did a complete overhaul of the graphics, giving it completely to the audience free of charge. And there was a couple other games that did it as well. But the point is, it's not a constant set in stone thing in this industry to release a game, make a remaster, and then give it for free to the people who already own the game. So I kind of see both sides to the coin here in terms of should you be paying for this or not if you already own the game. It kind of rubs me the wrong way because it seems like the remaster of Dark Souls is just one big patch to make the game work properly on the PC. And I think that's a little bit of a cop-out in terms of a development standpoint because it's been a long time. I mean, Dark Souls has been out for how long? Years on the PC, and we have not got any fixes up until this point. So, seems like a little bit of price gouging to me. But I mean, it's kind of a tough situation to be in terms of a publishing decision because you're going to have a lot of people absolutely hate you and you're not going to get support from the people who already have the game. But then you're also going to have a lot of people who are like, ooh, remaster, let me go ahead and dive into this game. I haven't actually tried it yet. So like, where do you draw the line? Do you charge? Do you not charge? They've decided to charge and that's what we have to live with. But because it's taken so long for them to actually implement this, it makes me think that it's kind of a strategy to just get people to buy the game again, if you kind of get what I'm saying. Like, if this implementation came a few months after the release of the game, which it should have, you know, they actually wanted to fix the game, which this is what they're saying, they want to fix the game and make it the best possible version ever, wouldn't that have actually come way, way earlier to actually make people happy to buy the best possible version of their game? You know, considering this is years down the road, this seems like, you know, if 3 million people bought the PC version of Dark Souls, they're just kind of throwing this out and hoping those 3 million people will just buy it again. There's not going to be a huge surge of new players coming into Dark Souls. This is an old game, so obviously they're not doing it to bring in a new audience. They're doing it to basically resell the game, and that's the thing that kind of irks me the most in terms of a business strategy standpoint, because, you know, I studied business in college. I've got an MBA. I know how these corporations work. I know what goes on inside these board meetings, how they're trying to maximize their revenue, how they're trying to resell, upsell, do whatever they can to, you know, take money out of your pockets. And although I love Dark Souls for what it is, and I think this is a really great deal, you know, $40 for the best possible version of Dark Souls is absolutely worth it. What it means for the industry in terms of the rebuying process just doesn't smell right to me. Could this have been a free upgrade? Yes. Is this not a free update? Yes. Are we paying way too much for the actual implementation of these features they're upgrading? Probably. And, you know, that's ultimately why I feel like this is a little bit shady. But the good thing is, we're going to get new players, whether it's a small portion of sales coming from new players or just people who are coming back into the game. Getting a spur to the player base is actually going to improve the longevity of the game. So this does have kind of a nice side effect for those who actually really like the online component of the game. You're always going to be able to find new players, especially with the surge of players coming in with the new sales for this particular remaster. So it's a pretty good thing in terms of that. But of course, these opinions seem a little bit entitled on the surface, you know, kind of complaining that we're not getting stuff for free, even though we already bought the game. It does seem a little bit extremist to some people, I am sure. However, what we're getting is not new features, we're not getting anything new that should not have already been a part of the base game in the first place. We're basically paying for a patch, and I don't think that is unreasonable, in my particular opinion. Although, as I already covered, the precedent for should you charge for remasters or not has not been particularly set in stone. I think that this particular example with Dark Souls, they're taking it a little bit too far, and it seems a little bit money-grabbing, at least for me. But for those out there who are new to Dark Souls or who haven't played the game in a long time because it just simply did not work when you bought it initially on Steam, Dark Souls is a wonderful game, and $40 is absolutely worth the entry fee. You know, I remember playing this game all night long with my buddies, playing co-op, you know, ganking people, doing stupid stuff like turning into statues and then, you know, killing people as they walk by, you know, kicking people off ledges, just going through the game. You know, this game is incredibly atmospheric, just from the very start of the game. You know, you're locked in the cell, the dude drops the key, you get out of the cell, you gotta explore, you gotta do things yourself, you gotta figure out what to do. It's kind of like this old school mentality of, if you don't figure it out, if you don't get better, you cannot proceed through the game. So there's this trial and error, there's this rite of passage you have to go through. Most people out there probably didn't even get through the Taurus demon, the very first boss on the bridge, right? They're like, this is too hard, I just don't understand this game. I'm just not good enough. I don't have the patience to learn the mechanics, which are obviously not being taught to me. So if you did get through that boss and you kept persisting and you got through the game and you went to this, Quelaag, and you went down to the swamp, you went to Blight Town, you went through, the Indiana Jones style castle, whatever it was called. I absolutely hated those stupid boomerang things that would slice you in half as you walked across those tiny bridges, and those stupid lizard men that would shoot your ass with the lightning as you were trying to walk by. Man, I died so many times in that space. You get to, what's that beautiful city with the sun? I haven't played in so long, I have to play this game again, but the point I'm trying to make is, the journey from start to finish in Dark Souls is one of the most unique, captivating, and interesting I've ever played. And if you have not played this game yet, I would wholeheartedly encourage you to go out and buy the remaster as soon as it comes out. But for everyone else, if you don't want to buy it, I understand. If you do want to buy it and you want to support the developer, I also understand that as well. For me though, it's a little bit exploitative, and I would not recommend those who already have the game to purchase the remaster, just in terms of an ethical standpoint. So yeah, that's my opinion on the Dark Souls remaster. It's a tricky one. This is a pickle. Whether you're on this side of the fence or that side of the fence, I can understand both sides of the equation here, but for me, it seems a little bit unnecessary. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and all you Dark Souls fans out there, I'm with you. Great game, and we'll see you guys in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness. Till then.